Hi everyone, my name is Tirth Patel and I'm a software engineer at the Princess Margaret Cancer Center in Toronto. Today I'll be discussing some work our team did to reimagine clinical processes using modern technologies based on FHIR. For a little background, I started as a summer student in the radiation medicine program a little over 5 years ago. From the beginning, I've been focused on so-called skunkworks projects, working closely with clinical researchers to quickly address their needs for data. In doing so, I've got to work with many different systems, ranging from decades-old planning systems and summer student projects that suddenly became mission critical to the latest and greatest in medical software. As is often the case in research, the resources can be quite limited, so we've always leaned towards open source libraries and protocols. Now, this specific project came about quite coincidentally. UHN had previously decided to implement ServiceNow for IT and HR workflow automation. Then the Google Cloud Healthcare API beta came out, and our EVP of technology posed the question of whether we could combine these two technologies to model and implement clinical workflows in ServiceNow while storing all protected health data in the Google Cloud. So we brought these stakeholders together, everyone agreed it was an interesting idea to pursue, and the proof of value was born. Just to note, all of this work was done in kind with no monetary or IP exchange. So to begin, we enumerated various clinical workflows that distilled all of the process involved to get a better picture of where this integration could be useful. From 3 broad categories, we selected just one based on the overlap and the scope of our collaboration. To further understand this process and the issues that are involved, we held a user experience workshop where we brought together a diverse group of patient partners, schedulers, a patient flow coordinator, oncologist admin, an oncologist themselves, and a family doctor. This was a very valuable experience. We had all these different people in the same room discussing the same problem to give us much more perspective on how to approach building a brand new system. So the specific use case that we settled on was the ad hoc referral of patients into UHN for an unidentified neck mass. Now, this is a common occurrence that can be generalized across many different sites and involves data moving across several provider systems. So the story begins with a person finding a lump in their neck. Understandably, they will probably ask Dr. Internet first, which is often not the best course of action. However, they could either see their doctor afterwards, which may be unnecessary, or they may think the issue is not severe enough to warrant seeing the doctor, which could delay their treatment. Furthermore, this uncertainty and lack of insight into their care can result in patients falling through the cracks and losing valuable time in their treatment journey. On the family doctor side of things, there is also an unclear and very manual process involved in actually submitting a referral to UHN. Currently, 80% of these referrals come in via fax. Now, this requires the clinic to ensure that they've actually got the right number from all these various ones here and the right information for each patient for each case. It turns out that in about a third of these cases, or 16 a week, the referral package is actually incomplete, and which requires UHN to follow up with the clinic after the fact. This adds 1 to 2 days at the minimum to the time that a patient can be seen. And after all of this, the record needs to be redigitized anyways, which involves re-entering the data and scanning the fax into the EMR. Now, once this referral is accepted, there's also no visibility on the clinic side to see what happened on the UHN side, apart from manually following up to make sure everything worked out. In fact, the head and neck oncology group alone received 2,300 referrals in 2018. That's 10 per day, and each involved a minimum of 30 minutes to complete, so a minimum of 5 hours per day just handling referrals. Now, the end goal of this use case is to ensure that a malignant mass is diagnosed correctly, quickly, improving the outcome, and that a benign mass is diagnosed correctly, quickly, improving the usage of our healthcare system. So to get a little bit into the technical nitty-gritty here, the key integration involved connecting to a Google Cloud Healthcare API FHIR store. So I set up a service account and registered the credentials in ServiceNow to be able to make these FHIR API calls to the Google Cloud. I then used the ServiceNow action capability to encapsulate the API usage. The main functionality involved really is making arbitrary REST calls and using custom JavaScript to parse the results. These actions then make up larger flows, and as you can see here, for instance, when the imaginatively named stuff is updated, we get the get patient action to retrieve a patient from the FHIR store. Now, once this data connection is set up, we're able to leverage out-of-the-box ServiceNow functionality to quickly create applications backed by this FHIR store. In this case, we need to create some surveys. So I adapted the underlying Angular component and service to intercept the responses that a person enters and send questionnaire response resources to the FHIR server. So here's a quick walkthrough of two of the survey apps that we created. One is for patients looking up information on their newfound lump, and one is for family doctors referring those patients into UHN. So these surveys are based on established clinical guidelines, and they will recommend next steps if the user needs to take action. For this proof of concept, we were not actually using any actual patient data or clinical connections, as that was all out of scope. So let me just walk through the survey. They answer simple questions to determine the status of their neck mass, and these are all derived from the clinical guidelines. They can choose to see some pictures and pick the size and how they think it feels. Once they're done, they're able to get a copy of the results sent to them to make sure that they know exactly what they submitted. And also they can be reminded to complete the questionnaire again if we've determined that they don't need to take immediate action. So they can feel safe in knowing that they're okay, not have to go to the doctor, and still be able to follow up on their questions. On the doctor side of things, it's actually quite similar, but it also enables a digital submission of the referral and ensures that all of the required information is collected and not lost in rounds of faxing and manual follow-up. So the questions here are a little more specific. They use more medical terminology to better assist the receiving oncologist in their diagnosis. And they can also provide information on imaging and tests that they have done, biopsies that they may have taken, and follow up on this kind of information later on, as you can see here. So they're also able to get a summary of the results, and they can have this attached to the patient record to make sure everything sticks around for posterity. Now, once all of these survey results are collected into the FHIR store, we can then export or live stream the results with the SQL on FHIR analytics schema into a BigQuery table. And this way, it makes it easy to query and join across all the different types of data that we're collecting. And from there, we were able to connect to Looker, a visualization platform, to quickly create these dashboards across all of this different data we've collected with very little technical ability required. So as you can see, it's easy to see how a lot of the value from these processes and the technical integrations we've put together can be scaled up across many different sites and many different institutions to help improve patient and clinical outcomes.